Greetings and salutations, my excellent friends. Welcome back. Welcome once more to the QiRanger Adventures Podcast. This is episode number 215. Thank you so much for joining me here on YouTube Sunday morning. And if you're downloading the podcast from iTunes or from the QiRanger.com website, thank you so much for spending part of your week, part of your day with me. I am thrilled to have you here. We have an absolutely awesome podcast this week. But before we begin, 2 items of business. Number 1, raise my beer. Height D for you. Cheers. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And of course, number 2, welcome. All right, let's get on with the news. And we have a lot of business to cover this week. First up, I don't know if you've noticed a little bit, but I have dropped a little bit on the content bandwagon. Now, for the last few weeks, I was putting out 7 videos a week. But as I started adding the mystery word game, as I started adding the video podcast, it became evident that I really couldn't keep up that release schedule. Doing 4 edited content pieces a week was just really too time consuming. So what I opted to do was have the 2 QiRanger videos go out on Tuesday and Friday, and then have the mystery word game come out on Saturday, and of course the podcast on Sunday. And if I have time during the middle of the week, I will of course release a video, or if I find something interesting, I'll go ahead and release a video, maybe do a few blog posts as well. But try to limit to these 4 content items every single week. It takes a lot of time, and I gotta be honest with you, I'm thrilled with the overall quality of doing those pieces versus just throwing something up here and there. So that is kind of the release schedule right now. Tuesday and Friday, QiRanger videos. Saturday, a puzzle. And Sunday, the podcast. On Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we'll have some fun things that, come up every now and then. But for the most part, 4 videos a week. Now, also in the news, this upcoming week, I will go back to Arirang Radio to record a radio segment with Catch the Wave, Adrian's show in the afternoon. And that should go out, I think, on Friday the 18th. Pay attention to my Twitter feed because I will be tweeting when that goes out. And like I mentioned last time, it was a blast to have the show pre-recorded and then be able to listen live with everybody and see all the comments come in. That was a blast. So that'll be coming out pretty soon. Also, this upcoming week, I'll be on Arirang Television live on, I believe, Wednesday morning to showcase some other materials. So I think we're going to be talking about recycling in Korea. And the funny thing was that they asked if I have any other videos, and I kind of mentioned, yeah, I got 600 or so. So we'll be back a few more times before we go on vacation. So that's also kind of cool. I also, got a bicycle. That's right. I have enjoyed riding a bike so much, doing these races, just being outdoors in this glorious, glorious weather, that Joe was able to find a cheap bicycle. Now, when I say cheap bicycle, I still mean a couple 100,000 won. In fact, I picked this one up for 275,000 won. And after doing some research, it's about 500,000 won bicycle. So got it for a great, great deal. And upcoming this week on Tuesday, the 15th, you will actually see the very first bike ride I took with this bike. Because when I picked it up, we got it off Craigslist. I picked it up and I strapped on a GoPro camera. So that's coming up on Tuesday, so look for that. Okay, let's get on to hardcore news items. And the first thing, of course, is a science item. Let me take another swig here. Is a science item I saw, and this was brilliant. So these scientists have been playing around with algae. And what they've been able to do is use these algae to scrub carbon. And in return, they become batteries. And then they, in turn, power lights. That's cool. Now, what these algae have been doing is they've been infused into, say, large street lamps. And they're in a liquid environment, so carbon is filtered into them. They scrub the carbon and in turn, produce the electrical current necessary for the street lamps. That's wicked cool. They have a few different style of lights. For example, one of them was this whole big array of light panels, similar to say like a billboard you'd see in a subway. And that was filled with the algae material. And then what they would do is send the carbon through there and they'd scrub it and then become bioluminescent and power the fluorescent lights. Wicked cool. Wicked, wicked cool. It cast this eerie green light. But overall, I thought it was an awesome, awesome advancement in technology. Speaking of nature, speaking of technology, this weekend also is seeing the launch of the 2012 World Expo here in Korea, in Yeosu. And by chance, Joe and I were able to receive some tickets to go down there. So when this podcast goes live, we'll actually be enjoying our second day at the expo. And if you're following our tweets, you'll see some pictures, you'll see some Facebook posts of our time down there. We're really excited about being able to see the launch of the expo and hope that it is as great of a success as the proponents are planning on it being. However, the expo is not without some controversy. Most notably is the infrastructure concerns. Now, Yeosu is a port town in the southern area of Korea, and in the city itself, well, there's only about 1,000 rooms, and to break even, they need thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, blah, 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 of visitors every single day. The number of visitors far exceeds the number of rooms that are available, so one is left to wonder, what are you going to do? Organizers are recommending doing day trips either down from Seoul or over from Busan. And to be quite honest, I would not want to be making that trek back and forth every single day. I'd want to stay in town. So once we get down there, it'll be interesting to see what is the real deal. And is the expo going to be a success? I don't know. Jury's out on that one. But I am jazzed to be able to go down there and see it. Apparently on Saturday night, since I'm recording this on Thursday, I don't know. Going back in time. Saturday night, we're supposed to see a K-pop concert featuring Girls' Generation, which will be the first time I've actually seen them live. The last time I saw a K-pop concert was when I attended Music Bank back in 2008, and Girls' Generation wasn't even on the scene yet, so I am looking forward to that. Also, in the news, speaking about Korea, let's talk about Korea and Japanese relations. Now, the two countries are in a bit of a sniff right now. You see, during the occupation period, Japan took a 5-story pagoda from Icheon and left it there. Also, during the Japanese occupation, the government here, the royal family, was forced to buy a number of Japanese works of art. They had to use their own money to buy these pieces of art at an inflated price. Ever since liberation, Korea has been trying to get back these quote-unquote stolen national treasure items. And again, they've pleaded with Japan to get these items back, get this 5-story pagoda back. And Japan is saying no. They've said no in the past, they're saying no now. But this time they've added a little caveat. They're saying, well, we'll return the pagoda if you return this painting that is hanging or is owned by the National Museum of Korea. And that is essentially a big slap in the face because Korea was forced to buy this painting during the occupation period, during the colonial period, for an inflated price. They legally bought the painting. So the Japanese government is saying, we will give back something we stole from you in exchange for you giving back something that you legally paid for from us. I think it's a raw deal. I think Korea is in the right here, and I hope that their plans to take it to the international forums will be fruitful. I hope that it really comes to light that even though the two countries are on somewhat equal footing and have normalized relations, that there still is a lot of unsettled business related to the occupation period. Speaking of military, speaking of Korea, speaking of Japan, the two countries, Korea and Japan, have also now recently signed a bilateral military agreement. Now, this means that from now on, both countries will share military intelligence and aspects of their military forces, mainly to deal with China and North Korea. And I think this is a good deal, and I hope that it leads to better relations in the upcoming years, because the two countries have a long history. There's a lot of bad blood between Korea and Japan, and it's really time to just let things out in the open, to address the issues, and finally put to rest all of the past. It's been way too long. Okay, moving back to Korea, an article came out this week, which I find completely funny, urging advertisers to stop using sports athletes to sell alcohol. And this has really come about because Yuna Kim, Queen Yuna, the ice skating queen, the magnificent ice skater that she is selling Hite beer. And doctors are fearful that seeing a prominent sports person hawk beer is going to influence teens into binge drinking. Really, seeing an ice skater, seeing a performer hawk beer is going to make you do that. This is a country where you go out for Wayshik and you get blasted till 4 o'clock in the morning on a regular basis. Go home, stumble home drunk. This is a country where I had conversations with my kids in elementary school about what they do when their parents come home drunk during the week. And their response is, I don't do anything except ask them for stuff because they're so loaded they give it to me. It has nothing to do with ice skaters or pop singers pushing booze in ads. It has everything to do with the drinking culture, and that's what needs to be addressed. Not the advertising, but the actual responsible drinking that needs to be involved. So I thought that was kind of funny. The last thing I want to talk about in the news segment is, of course, North Carolina and President Obama. Now, North Carolina has come out and pretty much said no same-sex marriage in the state, and I think that's a bad move. President Obama, in the election year, says he supports same-sex marriage, and I got to give him kudos for that, because this is a touchy subject. It's an election year, and usually politicians don't, come out like that. They don't come out in a risky move on something this controversial. So I'm really pleased with President Obama. I have long said that I support same-sex marriage. I support equal rights because I believe that any two adults that want to get married have that right. Now, especially in the United States, where there is the Establishment Clause, I see no reason why those rights should not be extended to same-sex couples. When people throw out, marriage is between a man and a woman, and you trace back their beliefs to religion, that's where it really gets me riled up, because I firmly believe that if you believe from a religious standpoint that marriage is between a man and a woman, then that's fine. There are other religious organizations out there that are all recognized by states and by governments that feel differently. And if you're going to allow Pastor John preside over a marriage between Steve and Jane, then you need to let Pastor Jerry preside over a wedding between Steve and Adam. There's no difference between their religious beliefs. They are two different religious beliefs, but they are both protected by the Constitution. And if one clergy member is able to perform a marriage, another clergy member needs to be able to perform a marriage. It's that simple. So there you have it. That is the news this week. Moving on, it is time for the Content Rewind. And boy, was it a fun week this week. On Tuesday, we saw the video for the Coffee Expo. And I have to say, I am jazzed that so many people left comments about coffee and wondering if I was bouncing off the walls, if it was too much coffee. Was I able to sleep that much that evening? And to be perfectly honest, 10 cups in a day is not a lot for me. That's my normal morning. Usually I have 20 or 30 cups in a day. And while we were there and filming and trying all these delicious beverages, I was in heaven. And then we met up with Carl Kwan, a good friend and fellow contributor to 1013 Main Street. And we were able to spend half the day with him. And I have to give a huge thanks to the folks over at Lavazza. They were so welcoming to us. We originally just went over there to have an espresso, an Americano, and they saw that we were filming, and we explained that we're doing a review of the expo to get more people out there for the weekend, to share information about the coffees that were there, the vendors that were there. Then he took us up to the VIP area, and that's where we had the caviar. That's where we had the ice espresso. That's where we had the cream espresso. That's where we had the, some people call it a flat white. It really wasn't a flat white. It was ice espresso with a lot of heavy cream. It was really different from what I've had before. But it was just a fun day. I went there with two purposes. One, to do a hard news story about the Coffee Expo for the Korea blog, and you can see the link to that in the show notes. But also, I really wanted to go there and just film me having a good time drinking coffee. In November, they have the Cafe Expo, or Cafe Show. And this is a pretty similar experience. During the Cafe Show, you have a lot of the same vendors, a lot of the same coffees, and then you also have the food aspect that people bring and to show off while you're at a cafe, so you can eat and socialize, do all the things you want to do at a cafe. So this expo was a little bit more narrow focused, but had the same look and feel. So I knew kind of what to expect. So we went there with the idea of how many cups of coffee I could drink, because at the cafe show, I did go through about 10 cups of coffee and had a great time doing it. So we wanted to recreate that in video this time. Also on Friday's video, another caffeinated video about affogato. I love affogato. Now, if you haven't seen the video, affogato is an Italian, I'm gonna call it a dessert. It's not really a dessert, but I'm gonna call it a dessert. You take a shot of espresso and you pour it over ice cream and then you eat it. It's delicious, it's heaven. And I originally wasn't going to shoot this video. I actually shot it well over a month ago, and it just didn't fall into the video release schedule until a lot later. Shot it with my iPhone while I was out in Seoul for a meeting, and what caught my eye, I was walking down the street, and here's this poster at Baskin Robbins for affogato. And I literally stopped and thought to myself, holy crap, Baskin Robbins is selling this. This is something that you normally see at fine restaurants, that you see at coffee shops, not at an ice cream parlor. So I had to go in. It was a moral imperative that I go in there and have a treat. Now, while most of the time when you have an affogato, it's over vanilla ice cream, but Baskin Robbins, you got 31 flavors, and they actually advertise either vanilla or chocolate. So I, of course, had to go big, go strong, go for the chocolate, yes. So that was that video, and it was a lot of fun to shoot and a great way to spend about 30 minutes just chilling back, having ice cream, having some coffee. It was fantastic. So also on the Korea blog this week, we have The Help is on the Way, showcasing the BBB, the 1330 line, and of course, the Seoul City tour guides. Those links are in the show notes. And with the 10 questions, thank you so much for doing video responses. That was so much fun. I really enjoyed watching those. answering their questions. It was a great throwback to 2006, 2007, those glory days of YouTube when everyone just got together and had a great time. So thank you so much if you made a video response. Thank you also for leaving comments, both on the blog and on the YouTube page. It was a great deal of fun, and I think maybe we should do some more of those because it was a great way to have a little community interaction. For me, it was even more sweet because old-time YouTube friends that really don't make videos anymore actually came out and did video responses, and I really enjoyed it. It was fantastic. And even Buck, Chef Buck, who's really focusing on making cooking videos and great recipes, funny, hilarious videos. He actually did a video response, and thanks, Buck. I really do appreciate that. It was awesome. Also, of course, yesterday saw the mystery word game number 4. I made this one a little bit easier, I think. Well, I always think they're really easy because I have all the answers. I know what I'm shooting in advance, but shooting this one was actually a little bit more difficult because I had a word envisioned. I know what I'm going to shoot. I told Joe what I was going to shoot, and then I went out and I changed it. And then I shot the 3 clips I was going to use, and I got halfway home and thought to myself, oh my gosh, I changed the word again. So this is actually the 3rd edition of this word, and it's a lot of fun. I forgot who it was, but someone did exactly what I hoped that they would do. And in the comment section, they went through and listed a whole bunch of different combinations of words and several guesses. And that was a lot of fun for me to see. Now, at the time I'm recording this podcast, no one has gotten it. And I'm a little surprised at that because I thought this one, number 3, was a little bit easy. But number 4, I suspect a lot of people will get number 4. That's my prediction. We'll see how well we fare this week. So there you have it, the content rewind. Welcome back. It is time once more for the question of the week. And this week's question is coming from Liboman 1988. Here's the question. It seems that you really like to travel. Yeah. Have you also been to Europe? If so, which countries did you visit, and which one did you like the most or the least? Now, I chose this question because I get asked it quite a bit. I get asked this question, have I been to Europe? And sadly, I must say I have not. Now, it's not because I haven't tried. You see, I actually got my passport with the intent of going to Europe in 1998. I got my passport with the intent of going to Europe. And since that time, I haven't been able to actually get there. Every time we get ready to go to Europe, something comes up. Something changes our plan. We were originally going to go to Europe last summer, but my brother got married, so I needed to go home and participate in that. Very thankful for that opportunity and thankful that I was able to do so. This summer, we were going to go to Europe once more. Hey, it's the London Olympics. Great fun. We have lots of friends in the UK. But my mother is turning 70 years old, and that's more important than going to Europe. Next summer, hopefully, will be the year that we finally get to Europe. I really want to go. I really want to go. As far as what countries do I like the most, the least, I really can't say because I haven't been there yet. Now, I will say that countries I want to go to, number 1 on my list is the Netherlands. Now, the reason why I want to go to the Netherlands is one of my longest college friends lives there. She lives just outside of Rotterdam. One of my oldest YouTube friends, Grumpy Chuck, also lives in the Netherlands, and I'd love to be able to meet him face to face. So I want to go there. I want to go to Germany, and I want to go to Poland, and I want to go to Austria. I'm very intrigued to sample authentic beer, authentic food from those regions, because when I go to German restaurants or Bavarian restaurants or Austrian restaurants, Polish restaurants, I love the food here. And one of the things I'm always intrigued about with regards to food is there a difference between having the food in, say, the United States or in a different country versus its native land? Has the taste changed? And since I love those foods, I would love to actually go eat it at the source. So I don't think the beer is going to change because that's pretty much standard across the board. But I do want to taste the food. I definitely want to go to the UK. I have several friends that live in the UK, and I really want to meet up once more in person with Mr. Nick, the Big Fat Lap, since he's been over in the UK studying. We go way back on YouTube, on Stickam. He's been on the Family Feud twice. So I would love to meet him in person while he's still studying there. J Hill Life, I would love to meet up with Mr. Josh while there. Just so many cool people. Love to go to Spain. Yeah. And Italy. Oh, just so many places. If I had the opportunity, I would love to just travel by rail all through the country. I think it'd be a fantastic experience, a fantastic way to film and to tell stories and to meet interesting people. I just think it would just be an awesome experience. And hopefully next year we will have that opportunity. I'm not sure, but we'll have to see. Typically when we travel in the winter months, we hit the Philippines or maybe Southeast Asia, just someplace warm. That's my requirement. Someplace warm, because Seoul with the wind is just freezing, and I want to be warm for a couple of weeks. So this upcoming year, we're slated to go back to the Philippines. That's the plan. So hopefully next summer we'll be able to put together a European trip. But that's the answer to the question. Great question. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your questions. All you have to do is leave a comment on this video, or you can tweet it to me at QiRanger, or you can even email it to me at podcast@QiRanger.com. All you have to do is ask a question, and I will answer it, either in a podcast, either in the comment section, or even as a personalized video response. I love this interaction that we have, and I can't wait to hear from you. So keep those questions coming. It is time once more for the Travel Talk section of the podcast, and today I am joined by simply an amazing individual preparing to embark on a year-long journey into the Alaskan wilderness. Now, not only will he'll be isolated during his time on a small island on the western entrance of Prince William Sound, he's going to film it. It is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Chuck Barrett, the Alaskan Pioneer, to the podcast. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So if you could kind of sum up what the premise of the Alaskan Pioneer is for my viewers.
Absolutely. This is a new, hopefully television series, if not documentary film, about early Alaskan pioneers and homesteaders here in Alaska. To encourage people moving up here, they used to give you land if you would move to it, build it up, make a house, do some farming and whatnot, then you could keep the land. Those were the original homesteaders. Now they don't have the Homestead Act anymore, but you can still get land very inexpensively, and the whole state is full of resilient, independent people who enjoy self-reliance and a bit of a challenge in nature. So.
Okay. Now, what exactly is your background? You know, how did you kind of prepare to take on this undertaking?
Well, actually, I grew up in Pennsylvania, among other places, just playing out in the woods as a kid, and I really enjoyed that kind of thing. As an adult, it still appeals to me, that sort of thing. My background, I actually went to the Air Force Academy, and I took survival school when I was there, the SERE training. I went into rockets and missiles. I worked in the space program for a few years.
Oh, really?
And then, I worked down at Cape Canaveral on a space shuttle, Delta III, a couple other smaller projects on the side. And then got into the energy industry, and I've been here for about 12 years doing various jobs in Brazil and Gulf of Mexico and now in Alaska. And I've done a couple survival schools here as well, although it's mostly water survival or firefighting, that kind of stuff. So some of that is applicable, some of it's not. I would really not classify this as a survival show, because I am bringing, I'm going to build a little cabin. I'm bringing some basic food supplies. It's really more a homesteading, a pioneer type show. I'm getting dropped off at the end of the month on this island. It's about 30 square miles. No one lives there, but it's, my property is pretty wild. It's, there's nothing on the land right now. Some rocks and some trees. So when I get there, I'll actually build a cabin, and move in and prepare for the winter, which is coming real soon. So
yeah, not too long away.
Yeah. It's a beautiful area, but the weather is just pretty intense. It's beautiful in the summer, and in the winter it's very, very cold. We get not very, very cold. It's very intense. We get anywhere from 80 to 120 inches of snowfall, and about 70 to 80 inches of rain as well. So it's just wet all year round. This is actually near the Tongass Forest, or on that stretch of the coast. So we actually have a rainforest up here, which a lot of people aren't aware of.
Yeah, I was in Alaska in 2005, and that was the one thing that really surprised me. Is as we were going up the coastline, everyone kept on referring to it as a rainforest, and that is not the image of Alaska that I have.
No, it's not. It's we don't all live in igloos and ride polar bears. It's really kind of a wide variety. If you go into the interior, you will hit 60 below zero in Eagle and those places. Go up to the north coast and you hit Dead Horse, which is a wonderfully named city or town, and you have some intense cold. But if you're down south, down by Juneau, which is the capital, where you have to fly in actually. It's much more temperate. We're on the water, and this island obviously is on the water. So in the middle of the winter, it'll often jump into the 40s, which is kind of unusual. And it does dip down to -10, but generally it's maybe 10 degrees above zero in the very dead of winter in the middle of the night. So it's not that intense cold that you have to worry about. It's more just the winds, and the winds get anywhere from 40 to 80 knots regularly. I think it's up to 50 today is what it is right now. But I've seen it up to 120 knots. So it's pretty crazy. So what's really interesting is that no one lives on the island right now, but the island actually has a really interesting history.
Okay.
Latouche Island, about 100 years ago, they were looking for copper there, and there were 4,000 people living on this island. It was just a megaplex for by Alaskan standards, and then around the 1920 World War I era, they all left when the copper market fell apart and everything just fell into disrepair, and finally a family actually bought it. So there were 4,000 people, and no one lives there now.
That's amazing, because you said it was 30 square miles?
30 square miles. It's 3 by 12 miles, and then about a 1,500 foot mountain range. Which doesn't sound high, but it goes up very quickly because it's so narrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Now, what kind of research, went into your preparation to, plan your expedition out there?
Yeah. Well, I've actually been looking into various building techniques. I've looked at cordwood homes. I've looked at ground homes where you dig into the dirt. I've read a lot of research on native structures. I've got a really good one, a book, more of a textbook really than a pleasure reading book, called Eskimo Architecture, and they look at people in Siberia and Alaska, Nova Scotia, all over Canada, and all of them build generally into the ground. They dig in because it's a nice thermal mass and keeps them a little bit warmer, and then they go up a little bit. The only exception to that is the igloo, and even that is just a temporary type setting, a winter home.
Oh, very
so
cool.
I looked at various cabins. There actually are restrictions on what I can build there, so I'm not allowed to dig into the ground.
Really?
So I'm actually going with a more traditional, or not traditional, just a lumber type house.
Okay.
little cabin.
Oh, very nice. A little cabin that you have to build yourself on a rocky island.
Exactly. Now, I built one 2 years ago on land, on the mainland, just to see if I could do it.
Okay.
It's not that tough, so it's but very warm. So
oh, excellent. That'll keep you warm, because you when you were saying, 10 degrees above zero, since we're here in Korea, I always think about 10 degrees Celsius. Hey, that's rather nice, but not so much on the Fahrenheit scale. I'm curious, as you're going to undertake this, what do you hope to learn about yourself during this process?
Well, I think that's really the more interesting aspect of the whole adventure. When I look at the challenges, there's survival, there's building the cabin and that kind of stuff, and I've done all of those separate tasks before. I built a cabin, I've done survival school, but what I haven't done is spend that much time alone, and that really is an intensely difficult thing in some cases. People joke about cabin fever and kind of being cooped up all winter and that kind of thing. But when you actually are by yourself for an extended period of time, it really plays on your mind. So I think that will be something that will be challenging. I'll probably look back on my life and read a lot of books and that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't think it's going to be a difficult or a unpleasant time. I think there will be some challenges, but I think it'll be a nice time to kind of sit down and calm down and say, I've made it, I've done this with my life. What do I want to do with the rest of my life? And just kind of reflect on those sort of things.
Now, do you have any fears going through your mind?
Not really. I'm pretty comfortable with my own abilities. I'm confident in my own abilities. So I think I'll be okay there. I feel really at peace over the whole thing. I've got good support with my friends and family. I feel like I'm doing what I need to be doing with my life at this point. So it's just everything is lined up to make this work out. And I feel really blessed to have this opportunity. It's very, most people can't just take a year off. Mm-hmm. And I am single, so I have the time, and I was able to raise the funds to do this trip, which is actually very inexpensive. It's actually cheaper than living in town, of course.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, even if you build the house and all the tools and all that kind of thing. So it's just kind of, this is an opportunity. I'm going to take it and see what happens. And regardless of whether it's good or bad, I think it's going to be interesting. And at this point in my life, I think I'm more interested in doing something that's challenging, something that is stimulating rather than just comfort, and more of the same. So you're going to be out there alone. What are some of the biggest dangers that you'll face? Yeah, probably, and it sounds silly, but just getting wet. Even at 40 degrees Fahrenheit, if you're wet, you can literally freeze to death. You can die very quickly, particularly if you get into the water. If you fall in a stream and you're away from the house, that can get very serious very quickly. I'm also up on a hill about 150 feet up, so if I go out in the winter, trying to get back through 4 feet of snow is a challenge, even with my snowshoes. Mm-hmm. So it's very active. It's very challenging physically. But I have some concerns about the house. I built a cabin before, but the winds are so intense that I'm concerned that it literally could get blown over. So I'm actually roping it down on all sides, kind of like a TV tower or something, just cabling it down so it doesn't fall over. There are, of course, bear, and that's a very serious concern. I've got a handful of different firearms, and I basically don't leave the house without a 44 Magnum. It's just kind of a different attitude here in Alaska. It's actually kind of funny because I go to the parks even nearby town here. I'll wear a sidearm just because this is Alaska, and there are moose and there are bear out there. And it's not a joke. It's some serious dangers. So carry a firearm. It's just kind of a different way of life. Instead of a cell phone, I grab the gun and just go. So it's not a big danger, but it's a concern. So you got to be careful there.
Yeah. Since part of your trip is all about filming and documenting the process, I'm kind of curious as to what kind of equipment you're bringing with you to accomplish that.
Yeah, I've actually got a collection of different cameras. And I just actually finished my first feature film called Coldwood. We just did the world premiere here in Alaska about ghost hunters, which is a fictional film, of course. But that was a lot of fun. And it's really kind of remarkable how inexpensive and accessible really good cameras are. We shot that with a Canon 7D, and I'm actually moving to the Canon 5D. That's what I've been using for the last year and a half now. And this is, just looks like a standard camera you take to your kid's soccer game. It's a DSLR, high quality. It's just kind of a staple in the industry of filmmaking. I think they use that to shoot the intro to Saturday Night Live, and they've shot episodes of House 24. That is just a wonderful camera. But then I'll supplement that with a Canon X810, which is a new video camera. It's actually less expensive than the DSLR, but it does some nice things. It does autofocus. Obviously, if I'm in front of the camera, I can't focus on myself, so the camera will do that automatically. If I'm tracking a large number of animals, I can actually tap on the screen and tell the computer and the camera what to look at. So if one of the moose or caribou or moose moves forward or backwards, it will continue to track that item. And then another nice feature is that it will shoot in infrared, so complete darkness. If there's something going on outside and I can't see anything, I can shoot with this camera, and I will be able to see what's moving out there. So I may actually use it more like night fishing goggles in some cases. And then of course I've got a GoPro, which I think you use that one as well. It is a fantastic, inexpensive camera. It's small, it's durable, and it's waterproof to I think 90 meters, and it's just a wonderful multi-purpose camera. So those are the three primary ones. I also like the time-lapse aspect of the GoPro. We can do a picture every 5 seconds or every 10 seconds. So we'll probably do some more time-lapse videos of me building the cabin and that sort of thing. And we'll be posting those on the Alaskan Pioneer website on Facebook.
So I wanted to touch on that as well. How can people kind of follow along on this process?
Well, we set up the fan site on Facebook, and it's something called Alaskan Pioneer. And it's kind of an interesting mix of technologies here. I'll be out there without even a chainsaw. I'll have a saw, a hand saw, and an axe. But at the same time, I will have the Spot Connect, which is a emergency beacon device, and the new version, which is still very inexpensive, actually will sync up with my iPhone and let me program what the message is. So I can actually send out a message saying, I built the cabin, or I saw a moose, or whatever, and I can send that up to 10 emails, and one of them will go to the Facebook fan page and update it. So while I can't hear from other people, and I will be completely on my own out there, people at home can tune in and read about what's actually going on in real time. So it's really kind of a fun mix of the technologies there.
No, that's cool. And for anyone listening or watching the video podcast, the link to the Facebook fan page will be in the show notes, so you can go right there, like the page, and that way you can stay up to date with the Alaskan Pioneer. That is pretty cool. Now, when do you actually set off on this?
Well, I'm taking off on the 26th to the 27th. It's the last weekend of the month. And I've got a couple different boats that I'm looking at. I think I probably found a better boat vendor today. So we're going to take me down there, and we're probably going to do it in 2 trips. And we'll go out there with a buddy, and he's got a 4-wheeler that'll help me kind of get stuff off the beach and out of the tidal zone and up to my property. I'm about a third of a mile away from the beach, up 150 feet. So getting some help getting it off the beach would be very helpful.
Yes.
And I can tell you another interesting story about why I'm on the hill. I'm actually concerned about tsunamis. That is a concern. There was the earthquake of 1964, which I think some people have heard of. A lot of people have never heard of it. It's actually the second biggest earthquake in recorded history on Earth. Wow. It was like a 9.2. It was just devastating. Downtown Anchorage, there were spots where the whole the road dropped 30 feet. The ground swallowed people alive, and it was insane. So this island rose 9 feet out of the higher in elevation, and it stayed up there. And then it moved 60 feet to the south. The entire island moved. They had actually the stumps of an ancient forest came up out of the water that had been chopped down probably thousands of years ago.
Oh wow!
It was just insane. But the island next door, Chiniga Bay, there was a native village there, and the tsunami that hit killed a third of the village, just wiped them out. So it's I don't really want beachfront property that is still available. It's very inexpensive actually, but I thought I'd get up 150 feet and hope for the best there. So
that sounds like a good plan. Sounds like a good plan. Well, thank you very much for coming along today, Chuck.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share my story.
Yeah, my guest today has been Chuck Barrett, a modern pioneer embarking on a year-long adventure into the Alaskan wilderness. You can follow along with his adventures on the Alaskan Pioneer face page, which you can find the link to in the show notes. And again, Chuck, thank you so much. I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks so much, Steve.
And what do you know? That is a wrap. The podcast has come to a close once more. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. If you know of someone that would like to hear more about Korea, hear more about the video creation process, please share the video with them, share the podcast with them. I would thank you tremendously. But until next time, may the road always rise to meet your feet. May the wind be always at your back. And may you have an absolutely fantastic day. I'll talk to you soon.